Commissioners Arnold, Hanson, Goldthorpe, and Baker here. And I'll let Kim do it.
And we'll open our portion of the meeting also. We have Council President Ruben Vonderhaar, Council Member Richard Cardoza, and Council Member Warren Christensen. Thank you.
And Mayor Steer.
And Mayor Steer, yes.
Okay, so first we're going to get a presentation from Director Wong. We've done this for a number of other cities and the county, and I think you're going to find it interesting. And then afterwards, we'll just open it up for discussion and go from there.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council members, welcome again to the Ada County Highway District. We're very happy to have you here with us today. And if any of you would like to jump on a front-end loader or help us with chip sealing pretty soon, you're more than welcome to come along.
And by the way,
yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Christensen and perhaps Councilwoman Vonderhaar would like a tour just afterwards. So if we could find someone, just take them over to TMC and maybe the yard.
I'm sure we can do that.
That'd be great.
Okay. What I'd like to do today is give you a quick rundown of where we're at nowadays, your ACHD, and take a look at some things about growth that will be very pertinent to CUNA as we move forward. Next slide, Stacy. Okay, next, please. This is something that we have committed to our commissioners some years back. It's the operational goals and commitments that we have made to them. I'm proud to let you all know that your ACHD is achieving all of the goals associated with what you see up on the board. Next. Also, we take great pride, as you know, in the infrastructure here at Ada County. I'd like you all to know that, again, from outside the state, independent assessments, your ACHD, Ada County, has the best roads in the Northwest and some of the best roads in all across the country. There's the actual ratings, so you compare them with other cities. And we do this with the tremendous team we have and the great focus we push on preventive, proactive maintenance operations. Next slide. Speaking a little bit about dollars, as you can see, the commission has done a tremendous job over time of assuring that the dollars that the taxpayers and constituents share with ACHD, or loans to ACHD basically, is well distributed, well spent throughout all of Ada County. All of those facts, those are audited numbers from Eide Bailey. There is no smoke and mirrors here whatsoever. And that's what we report to all elected officials around the January, February timeframe. You will get a power presentation from me letting you know how the commissioners, again, had been very frugal and very cautious of dollar spending. Next. This year's budget, huge. This year is the largest capital infrastructure investment in ACHD's history, and we're probably going to top that next year and the year after that also. But as you can see, a lot of dollars and a lot of effort being in. Let me apologize to all of you now, because we're going to make your life a living, it'll be miserable through the summer as we do all this construction and building, but it'll be great when we're all said and done. I also like to point out to folks that we are very proud that our overhead costs remain at 8%. I think we can put that against any private business across Idaho. Next slide, please. Projects, all of you are very familiar with the Integrated 5-Year Work Plan and the process we go back and forth. This is the currently approved one. We are working with your staffs right now on the upcoming Integrated 5-Year Work Plan that will be in front of the commissioners in September for their approval. You, of course, will see this and we'll be looking for your approval before we bring it to the commission on the projects. I will note a lot of projects, but as you can see, as I'm sure that you deal with on a daily basis, funding does not keep up with requirements. And we're facing the same issue here at the Ada County Highway District. Next slide, please. Everybody's favorite topic. We love it. It's just absolutely wonderful. This is the reason why we do so well. But chip sealing season is upon us. We start on 12 June. Mr. Mayor, we are not in CUNA this year, so you're safe as such. But those are the numbers, and that's the efforts going to be put forward. Next slide. Something new. 2 years ago, the State Department came to the Ada County Highway District and asked us to entertain or to discuss how we do business with so many different entities with the country of Bhutan. It went over very, very well. We have just been asked again by the State Department through BSU's program to host those countries on 25 June once again, to come back and understand how, according to the State Department objective, how does the Commission and how does our staff do the great things that we do on a consistent basis. So this is another big deal. I think we're the only highway district in the nation to be asked to host this international group. So I'm sure it'll be outstanding when we're all said and done. Next slide, please. Okay, Wall Street Journal. You've seen this. You've seen the tremendous growth that's going across Ada County. We are making national news. Everybody wants to come to Idaho. A lot of people want to come to Ada County for the great way of life and cost of living and all. And of course, I have to say the great roads and infrastructure that we have here at Ada. However, you deal with on a daily basis, our commissioners do the same thing. How do we balance the growth with requirements, capability, capacity, and dollars to ensure that we continue to be the best here in the Northwest? This is a huge challenge for our elected officials as they look at the current budget and the projected budgets that we are working with them. Next slide. So that you know, very smart people at Compass do a lot of great work on suggesting where we might be in population growth. I will tell you right now that we are above the curve, and we're projected to remain above the curve as we go the next 5 to 7 years, adding over 80,000 people to the roles here at in Ada County. That is huge. Next slide. Development activity. Just to give you a background from FY16 and 17, as you can see, as we completed 17, we had huge increases across the board on growth, infrastructure development, and building and investment in Ada County. Next slide. However, if you take that record year and now compare it to where we are today in FY18, look at the increases. I draw your attention, of course, you're probably very familiar with this, but the subdivision permits up 47%, and it will continue to go up as we look into the near and distant future. This is a huge challenge for all of you and for our elected officials here at the Ada County Highway District, and of course the staff and operations to be able to execute the demands, requirements, and tasks that are coming down from all 6 cities and Ada County. Next slide, please. Growth. We are well north of 5,000 lane miles right now. If you think about that, I used to brief folks to say that we could go from here to Washington, D.C. and back just on the mileage within Ada County. Well, today you can do that trip, then go north and probably go south a little bit, then go back up north again and come back. Ada County is growing exponentially. And as you can see, we're projecting about 400 new lane miles in the next couple years. That is a tremendous challenge for cities and the county, and of course your highway district. Next slide. System age. If you look at the outline, you can see the commission and the staff have different challenges based on types of infrastructure. We have newer in the west, we have mature in the east, and those provide different new and preventive maintenance challenges and strategies for the system. And as I said earlier, it's getting bigger. Next slide. So I have in front of you this little chart, and what I'd like to do is I'm going to walk through the maintenance zones and share with you some insights that our staff has regarding what the future looks like, so that you can see where I'm at. It's in front of you as we move forward. So next slide, please, Stacy. Zone number 1, probably a mature zone in the area. But right now, as we look forward, we have 236 plats, preliminary plats that are already on the books. The average build in each of those plats is about 6 or 7 homes, businesses, whatever you want to call it. But look at the number of lots and the maximum number of lots out there in this smaller area. That's more infill is going in, and so people are going up versus out in this area. And what's interesting, projected new lane miles, 14 in an already built out area. Next slide. Zone 2, 50 projected lane miles. If you look at the number of lots and the maximum number of lots in each of those plats, or the plats, that's a lot of building that's going to occur within the next 5 to 7 years in Maintenance Zone 2. Next slide, please. Zone 3, you might be familiar with this and such, but look at the number of lots. This is what we know today, and the average build out in that is 183 in each of those plots. That's amazing. Look at the projected lane miles that will be accompanying those lots and preliminary plats. This is, again, a challenge for you and for Ada County Highway District. Next slide. So let's delve into this just a little bit more to show you what we are doing at this point in time. These are the number of developments that we see in the Kuna South Meridian area. 3 years ago, this would not have been believable, but this is what we as colleagues and of course and elected officials are going to be dealing with for the next 5 to 7 years. Next slide, please. If you look at this chart, it shows you where the current entitlements are. And if you look at preliminary or primary subdivisions, a lot of blue that we know of today that's already slated in this area. Next slide, please. Impacts, well, we're projecting 40,000 vehicle trip miles per day in this area, and with the additional development that you see there, that's an additional 9,000 trips per day. So at the end of the day, 10 Mile most likely will be starting to look like Eagle in the very, very near future. Next slide, please. Here's some of the things that are already in the approved integrated 5-year work plan that is addressing some of these. However, as you can see on that bottom section there, we already have 9 intersections and 5 road segments that are over capacity but are not programmed at this point. That's something that we as an organization, and of course you and the other elected officials, are going to have to discuss as we move forward with the capital improvements plan and the integrated 5-year work plan. Next slide, please. Zone 4, not as big a development, but growing than Zone 3. As you can see there again, 20 new projected lane miles and a lot of lots. I know that probably doesn't sound right, but that's just the truth. Next slide. Zone 5. Zone 6. 13,000 lots. Now this is Eagle, Star, North Meridian. As you can see, between Eagle, Star, North Meridian, and Kuna, that is the projected greatest growth that we see occurring within the next 5 to 7 years within all of Ada County, bringing along all the great things it does and all the challenges it does. And of course, you are looking at, in this area, the largest projected lane mile expansion for the ACHD system. Next slide, please. So just to give you a quick summary slide of all that I've on those things there. When it's all said and done, 38,974 lots that we are aware of now, and up to 400 new lane miles within the next 5 to 7 years that we are, our staffs, and in coordination with your staffs, are already working through to see how we're going to make this all work. Next slide. Congestion, this is what the folks at Compass tell us that we're looking into not too distant future. If you look at the total number of vehicle miles traveled between 16 and 2035, that's almost doubled with the, again, the impact of growth into Ada County. Next slide. Budgeting. We're in our budget process right now. The commissioners are going through a very intensive step-by-step, line-by-line here in the very near future. But that being said, we already know today that we have approximately $300 million in ADA and bicycle deficiencies in spending over the next 20-25 years. We already know today that we have $185 million in the capital improvements plan, deficits or unprogrammed facilities for pedestrians. We already know today that the CIP, based on the requirements or the requests that each city and Ada County has said they think it's important in this program, those are a lot of dollars that it's underfunded at this point in time. But, next slide, with a dedicated team, anything's possible. And I assure you that our commissioners are fully engaged, and they are doing a tremendous job on ensuring that we spend every penny wisely as we move forward. So with that, that's my presentation. I can stand for any questions that you have. If not, Commissioner Baker, over to you.
Did anyone have any questions on this particular part of it? And if you'd like, we can get you a copy of the presentation. So I just want to add a little bit to that. You know, you guys are no strangers to the explosive growth that's occurring. But to put it in context, you know, between 90 and 2000, we had 100,000 people come into this county. Same thing with 2000 to 2010. And right now, we are on track to exceed that in this decade. We're 4 to 7 years ahead of projections from Compass. And that's just right now. So who knows what's going to happen in the next 2 years. So we are doing the best we can. And, you know, Kent Goldthorpe, you know, you also know this. He's the one commissioner that you guys have that you elect. Other commissioners are shared by different cities, but you have Kent Goldthorpe as your commissioner. However, I don't think any other commissioner feels like we don't have a stake in CUNA as well. And so I think most of us, if not all of us, look at our job as looking out for the entire county and not specifically for our district. So I just wanted to throw that out.
And I also want to echo that. I appreciate the relationships that we've built here. I think that all of our commissioners are very supportive whenever even has a request and there's things that we need to get done that we can't do without them. They always step up. They're very helpful. Downtown project, there's a lot of the stuff in there that we wouldn't have been able to handle. CHP stepped up and worked to help us out. Great staff members. Whenever we call and we have a problem, somebody is grabbing on the top. That's it. I really appreciate that very much. Like you said, I don't ever notice that you only have one commissioner. It feels like the entire board we have there here, so thank you very much for that.
Well, there's some really good reasons for that. I think it's very accurate for me to say that we don't feel any more support of a particular area of this county than we feel from CUNA. It's just been amazing. And I'm not just speaking of Snowmageddon. But that's when it became really obvious to us. And for instance, when you needed about $60,000 to fix the end of that green belt, I mean, I was a little nervous, but I've never seen anything get full approval of our commission so fast in my life as that. And it's been that way pretty consistently. And when we had this meeting with the city of Meridian, I was dumbfounded, as you've heard me speak at the chamber about this, when one of the biggest concerns, if not the biggest concern of the mayor and city council of Meridian, was fixing the South Meridian, North CUNA future so that it wouldn't be what it looks like it could be. And when President Baker mentioned how far ahead we were of Compass, in that little area that we've been describing, it's 4 times what Compass projected.
So maybe we could, if we can, put up that graphic that shows the intersections and the segments in the South Meridian, North CUNA area, just to show you what we all are up against in terms the congestion and the pinch points. And while your area is 3, or part of 3, you also affect 2, because a lot of your people go up to the freeway. And so they're on the receiving end of all that congestion as well. So. Okay, we're having a technical glitch, but it'll be there, and then, right. I'm not sure this is the exact one, but, well, there were some intersections west of Meridian Road, weren't there, that had problems?
Yeah, 10 miles getting pretty full.
So I think this is the graphic for current, but I'm looking for something that's more, that shows the issues that we're having. Anyway, we'll get to it. So I'm just going to throw it open, and, you know, whoever wants to chime in, go right ahead. And if you have any questions for us, or if you have any concerns.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, when the most that the council usually hears about ACHD during our meetings is traffic impact studies, recommendations to Main County Highway District. So, now's a great time if any of our council members have any specific questions, things you want to know. It's a good time to do that.
I'll start with the question,
Sure.
just for my own knowledge.
Okay.
When they reference a traffic impact study, what goes into that?
I'm sorry, what?
What goes into traffic impact studies when you start looking at things like the developments and all things?
Well, they're done by the applicants. So, and then we review them. And it's obviously how many buildings are going to be constructed. There's a manual that says for every house, X number of trips are done, where those trips go on a model, that sort of thing. So if you're, you know, the roads are not yet widened, and, you know, then they look at the peak hour as well, which is generally at the end of, during rush hour. And then if staff has anything to contribute to that as well.
And I'd also like to thank Kent's been coming around and visiting with people and answering questions and getting some information out there. So came to our last chamber meeting, did a good presentation. I think that's just helpful to let people understand the way some of these things work. Unfortunately, we can't just look at something that we'd like to see and then build all these big, fantastic superhighways and then build the projects, because it just doesn't work that way. We have to look at the impact fees, and a lot of times we're overbuilt before we have the opportunity, and then we have to shut them down and fix them. We're always too busy for that. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast for us. I think that's also shows that we're asking that new growth pay for itself for the most part, rather than impacting on taxpayers that already live here.
So this is kind of like what we were talking about. The circles are the intersections. The black is the segments. And there will be more. But we're cognizant of it and are working towards helping fix that.
Would it be
Yeah, perfect.
appropriate to talk about what we're coming up with as
Yes.
far as revenue enhancements?
Yes.
Okay. Want me to start?
Yes, oh, I thought you
Okay.
wanted to.
Yeah, I'm always willing to volunteer, but you're our fearless
No,
leader.
no, you can all contribute.
What we've decided to do as a commission, and this was formalized pretty much yesterday, is we'll be going to the voters in November to request an increase in the vehicle registration fees up to a maximum of $70. And we've done some extensive scientific polling, as well as a very large public survey. And it was rather amazing how close the unscientific survey and the scientific polling matched each other. We have asked and got by far the greatest percentage response, and it was well over 50%, when people indicated that they would be willing to see that kind of an increase if it was for projects that they thought were important. And so we're going to have to come up with what is commonly known as the Christmas tree approach for projects throughout the county, inside Boise, CUNA, everywhere, to make that happen. It can raise us as much as between, what, 8 and 10 additional $1 million. Unfortunately, that won't take care of the large amount of needs that we see just in the small area between Meridian Road, Black Cat, the interstate, and down to the railroad tracks, which is where what I've been talking about now for several months in groups. And that we don't have enough time to address that. And in this polling that we received, the numbers, there was not a significant, by any stretch, 6 to 8% of the respondents said they would think that an increase in their property taxes, in whatever form that might take, would be appropriate at this time. So we're not going to be trying to sell that to a supermajority when you start at 6 to 8%, no way. But when you have something from 53 to close to 70% to start with, and you need 50% plus one vote, that's what we have for the study and the polling that we've done. That's where we're going to head from. And some of the areas that the public was most concerned about, and this was rather interesting because the pollster divided up the county, East County and West County, and we're all part of the West County. And the desires as to what should happen with that money were very different. For example, in the east part of the county, they wished to have some of the money spent on more transit-related projects. And there's some things that we can do infrastructure-wise, of course, to make that possible, which we can do and include. And you've seen all the different types of things that we have in the West with regards to, there's a lot of development in CUNA, Meridian, Southwest Ada County, where there's no sidewalks. So safe routes to school is a big deal, because if mama is not going to take their kid to school in the car and they can't be bused, congestion goes down if they can walk or ride their bicycle. And so we're concerned about that. So anyway, and we could definitely, as elected officials, you can, once you're familiar enough with what the plan is, you can get on board with us and promote this. We cannot have our staff, and you can't have your staff involved in that or spend any money on that, but we're looking for the financial backing as well as the backing of elected officials everywhere in the county to convince an already fed up public, and I call it pain, because like Councilman Cardoza, I've been in sales all my life, and the best time to make a sale is when there's sufficient pain to solve a problem or provide a solution, and there's a lot of pain out there today with regards to traffic and congestion, and so we want to make sure that the money that can be raised by this registration fee increase can reduce that pain as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, and I would just add that with very limited information out there already, I mean, it's been in the paper, I think, once or twice. Some of the information was not accurate. But with the limited amount of information that's out there, you know, we already have the negative Nellies coming out of the woodwork saying, no, 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 or here they're asking us to raise our fees and they don't even have a plan. Well, that's because we don't have everything in place yet. So rest assured that when this does go on the ballot, there will be, it won't just say, hey, give us $70 for, and like there was in 2008 for the second registration fee. And that's what we're working on right now. And that will all be made apparent as time goes by.
Yeah, just to add to that, we are trying to tailor the plan to what the public wants. And we're still gathering information on that. So you can't really say exactly what you're going to do with the money until you have that input from the public. For me, I hope you'll support this because I think going to a more user-based system for paying for transportation improvements is appropriate. Property tax is just not the appropriate mechanism for funding transportation improvements. So hoping this will be a first step to get us to broaden our resources from other sources besides property.
And one other thing is, as we expand the area of impact that affects CUNA and South Meridian, one of the things that we all concentrate on as much as possible is enhancing and supporting economic development. And I've known for as long as a couple of you have been alive, at least I think alive, you guys, a couple of you look pretty young, that one of the CUNA's biggest needs was to get over that stinking railroad track. And so to make that happen we'll be discussing marketing, if you will, and polling to figure out how that can happen 2 years from now when we can go to the voters again in some way, shape, or form.
Well, the beauty of the registration fee also is that it is a pure user fee. If you don't have a car and you're not driving on the road in a car that you own, then you don't pay that fee. Now, you might drive in somebody else's car, but they're paying the fee. So it is, and I hope the public understands that, you know, if you use the roads, we all have to pay for the roads.
I had an interesting experience just a couple of days ago, and I won't name a name, but one of my very much more libertarian young friends who lives in our area, our district, was listening to the stream that the chamber did at that speech I gave, and watched a couple of the newspaper articles that have come out recently, and watched people reply to these with negativity about how much they paid in property taxes. And then the discussion started about what portion of their property taxes actually go to the roads. And this young man, as ornery as he usually is on Facebook about all things tax related, he said, I have a $247,000 home. I pay $123 for the roads. This is a problem. That's a direct quote. So we don't charge much on the property tax end of things for the use of the roads and the maintenance of the roads and the capital improvements of the roads. And so we have a job to do, because the legislature frankly expects us to do that. If they don't give us any more tools, we have to use the tools that we have better. We have a job to do to convince folks that they're getting a bargain.
So I guess the upshot is, when this happens, we hope you'll be there with us.
And so another thing that I'm a big problem for you, every time we bid a project, even if we add a 30% cushion in there, that generally is still not enough.
Yeah.
So construction costs are skyrocketing. I keep hoping they'll kind of level off, but I just don't know what leveled off means anymore. So I guess, is there any way to look at possibly impact fees? Is there some way you think that those could be increased to make things beneficial?
Well, I might let Gary talk about this, but I think we've tightened them as much as we can at this point in time. Isn't that right, Gary? There's a potential coming up to expand them maybe a little bit. But then, you know, you have the issue of, you know, the screening on both sides. It's maybe too much, and then that stops things. So, but I think, aren't we having a redo of the impact fee in the near
Commissioner,
future?
Commissioner Baker, yes, we're working on address an update in the ITE trip generation manual, as well as adding in mid-mile collector intersections as impact fee eligible, which will raise the costs a little bit, as well as removing the 10% property tax credit provision, which will free up additional property tax revenue to be utilized for other things in future budgets. And then at the end of September, on October 1st, there's also an automatic inflation index each year that the fees are increased based on the consumer price index, and that will be close to 3% this year. So we'll see a slight increase in July or August, another one October 1st.
Because we do hear that a lot. Why isn't growth paying for itself? Well, growth never pays for itself. We
Right.
know that. I mean, you can't make it pay for itself unless you were to put such a premium on it, and then there wouldn't be any growth, and then there would be problems on the other end. But what we have done as well is try to recapture 100% of all of our fees, because the people who use those services should pay for them and not just the average taxpayer. You know, we got the extra money from the state gas tax for the maintenance, the House Bill 312, I believe it is. We're always looking for efficiencies, but you know, the time has come that, you know, you just can't continue to do what you need to do without having more revenue.
Good, thank you.
I'll totally change the subject.
Okay.
This might be way too specific a question, and if so, we can follow up on it afterwards, but I promised I would ask. Some of the biggest complaints I've heard lately are regarding 10 Mile. There's a 2-mile stretch of it that's been under construction for 5 months now. It was supposed to be a 3-month shutdown, and the deadline, the first extended deadline just passed, and so people are saying like, oh geez, is it gonna go 6 months or even longer? And then some of the detours around are also getting shut down for different projects, and so it's just kind of causing a headache. So I just wondered if there was any update or any information that I can take back to folks about kind of maybe what some of the challenges there have been, or just so I can help them better understand what's going on and when they might see relief there.
You're
Sure,
going to
and
get
just-
some of that.
Just remember that,
Yep.
you know, you should just tell them you cannot get there from here.
And we
I'm
just
saying,
had
this
a
is the summer
rather
of construction.
exhaustive meeting about this very
Oh, good.
thing over at the Durant's at Big D Ranch, 2 weeks ago? Yes, and came to some conclusions. And that was that half a dozen of your bigger agricultural producers need to be able to get in their fields this year.
Yeah.
And, and we're doing projects on other parts of 10 Mile as well as Black Cat. And our staff has been very, as well as the contractor, which is Central Paving, if I remember right. They're very agreeable to making some scheduling changes to make it so that everybody can get their crops out at the right time. The project you're referencing, is that the one on Lake Hazel and 10 Mile?
Yeah, it's like is it Lake Hazel up to, I can't even think of what it is, but yeah.
You knew there was a problem with one of the contractors, right?
I'd heard reports that people were complaining that, like, it seemed like nothing was happening for the first month or two, and that they were suspecting that might have been part of the delay, but I mean, it's all just people conjecture, you know, on Facebook.
Yeah, I was always talking to the Durants because they're right there, but is this the one where the contractor just left?
Madam President,
Specific answer to that question?
the one on 10 Mile is not an issue of the contractor leaving. There's always issues in Kuno with dealing with rock. They have been working diligently to get that road back open prior to the start of our ACHD project to rehab pavement south of there, which is going to start Monday, yes. So they've been hauling in rock and prepping to pave by the end of this week to get the utility project done. Unfortunately, at the same time, they're a mile over on Linder. On a different stretch, there was other utility work going on, which should be completed, I believe, by the end of the month. There's just, with all of the new subdivisions, the extensions of all of the sewer and water and irrigation is really taking a toll. But we are working with the contractors to make sure that we have the appropriate routes and that they're working as quickly as possible.
Okay, do we even, again, I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, but just because I think the last sign that I saw said that stretch of 10 Mile was supposed to have opened up on the 4th and it wasn't open yet. Do we have a new estimated date, or should I just check the sign when we go back?
I believe they're working to complete that this week.
Oh, wow, okay, perfect.
What we need to do with our signs too, just simply because this is happening in a lot of places around. I mean, the contractors are overburdened. We probably should start under-promising and then so we can over-deliver. Yes.
Either that or give your mayor a can of black spray paint.
Yeah, and just having to go out and change it every day.
I'll fix that.
But just remember, when it's done, it's going to be great.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 2 years when we start putting more of this money into the same area for other projects?
No.
Sure.
Would it be possible for Bruce to give a short synopsis of what 10 miles, if and when it'll be expanded? I could see in the near future, it's going to be a north-south major road.
Right.
Along with 69.
And I think we're looking at making that a priority corridor. But
Meridian was begging for it.
I think Dave Wallace is our planning director, so he'll give us an update.
Madam President and Mr. Counselor, so yes, we are planning, and we actually have a graphic on the wall here indicating some of what's going on in 10 Mile. Within the next 5 years, we should have the improvements that we need on 10 Mile. Further to the discussion a minute ago, just to be clear, what's going on right now is a utility project that does not belong to ACHD, that needed to be done ahead of time. It's a municipal thing. Talking with the contractor that is going to be working both of those parallel projects out there, they have a complete understanding what we need to do for the farmers out there to get it done by the anticipated substantial completion date. So, and I could, if I could just elaborate a little bit more, I'll take a second and pull a graphic up in a second, but on our website, we have an interactive map that shows everything that's in our 5-year work plan. That'll give you an idea of what years, what items are going to be complete. And I'll pull that up as your meeting continues. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess one of my questions would be, if you look at 10 mile between Amity and Lake Hazel. The entire road, I believe, is being torn up and redone. Would that be a good time for them to put in 4 lanes on acquisition when you're doing a major road resurfacing and allocation?
Let me pull the map up to show you. So in the interactive map, here's 10 miles south of Lake Hazel. It's a project for this year, as you can see. You click on the map, and it tells you what we're planning to do. So in the current project scheme, what we're planning to do is pavement rehabilitation. And that is all that's in the plan as you see it now.
I understand your question, and it makes a great deal of sense. If we won the $500 million lottery, we could do stuff like that. The problem is, you've got, you just can't go in and pave 5 lanes. You have to have the right of way. You have to, do all sorts of things, and then you have to design it. And it's always inexplicable to me why it takes so long to do these roads. It seems to me that we should be able to accomplish them in a quicker period of time, but it's just the rule, I guess, that we can't. That's the only way I can explain it. It would make sense to widen it to 5 lanes, and it is in the plans, but not right away.
Well, and I imagine it would be pretty challenging to do like a mile at a time, and it goes to 5 for this mile, and then it just stops, and just the expense associated with, doing the bump ins and outs for the parts that we have expanded to have, and we're gonna have to tear that out later and fix it, and so from that perspective, I think it makes sense too.
Just to give you an idea, we did a price drill on a couple other segments during the day. So these are, each mile is about $5 million worth of road if we were to expand it. So we have to establish the need, and what we're trying to do is balance the entire county's budget, the Ada County Highway District's budget, to account for everything that's going on in the county. And as the director mentioned, we have more program than we can fund right now.
But this is why it's also important for CUNA to really take a look at your needs, wants, and desires and bring them forth in the 5-year integrated work plan requests that you all have. And it should be a wide range of projects from, $5 million down to, a couple $100,000 sidewalk type things.
Yeah.
Sarah, years ago, there was a southwest corridor between Ada County and Canyon. Is there any more talk on that?
Are you talking about that?
Cunamore Road?
Yeah, the
going
one that, through the Birds of Prey area, kind of?
Yeah.
I think that went away. I think there was just too much environmental issues and opposition.
I thought Canyon County was putting a lot of effort and work into bringing it from Caldwell south through Canyon County over to Ada County. Did they stop
I think so.
with their effort? Okay.
I haven't heard anything about it since that, this whole thing was a big deal a number of years ago. Have you heard anything, Rebecca? Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is, at one time, they were looking at Black Cat being a major north-south corridor. That would take a lot of effort away from 10 Mile, if that's what they were gonna do. So I would have thought coordination would have been important between Ada County and Canyon County on something like that.
Well, there was that whole discussion, and it just, I don't think it ever went anywhere.
Fell apart.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
Now it looks like the connection from Eisenman interchange over by Micron through to along Lake Hazel to Cole and then west is going to be the part that's developed the largest first.
Okay.
Very good.
Are there any other comments, questions? Anything?
I sure appreciate the invite. It's nice to get to chat with all of you and keep the relationships and stuff. I do appreciate everything you guys do for CUNA, and just really appreciate you having us out. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and we appreciate CUNA because you guys are hardly ever just whining at us.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I could, for the council members who would like a tour of the facilities, Tim Nicholson, he's our Deputy Director of Maintenance. He will be your guide over to the TMC and then over to the maintenance operations at Adams. We have two major industrial sites, one here and of course one at Cloverdale. But Tim would be more than happy to take you around.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
So, unless we have anything further, I guess I will close the meeting on behalf of ACHD.
And meeting adjourned on behalf of CUNA City.
It just seems like.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That west end